The President of the United States, Donald Trump, approved on Tuesday the investment of at least $500 billion for the Stargate project in artificial intelligence. The President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, together with the High Command, led the military march as part of the start of the first popular military and police exercise, Escudo Bolivariano 2025. And in Palestine, Israeli occupation forces continue with large-scale operations in the West Bank, one day after having killed 10 people and injuring over 40. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The President of the United States, Donald Trump, approved on Tuesday the investment of at least $500 billion for a project in artificial intelligence called Stargate. So far, it is the most expensive project in the history of humanity. Stargate is a project that consists of the creation of a mega artificial intelligence computer which will have thousands of data centers stored globally. The project, which aims to position the United States as a world leader in artificial intelligence, will be built in the state of Texas and will be led by companies such as Microsoft, NVIDIA, and OpenAI. In this sense, the U.S. President assured that this investment will generate close to 100,000 jobs and will have, according to Trump, economic benefits for humanity.
Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did.
In the United States, demonstrators are rallying against President Donald Trump's anti-immigrant measures in front of the Lloyd George courthouse in Las Vegas. A day after his sworn-in ceremony, Trump abrogated a century-old policy known as birthright citizenship that guaranteed citizenship to the children of immigrants born in the U.S., regardless of the status of their parents. In addition, the Republican president eliminated all protection for irregular migrants taking refuge in churches, shelters, schools, and other places in order to expand anti-immigrant law enforcement to arrest and deport them back to their countries of origin. The Chinese government ratified its commitment to defend its national interest after the U.S. President Donald Trump announced the imposition of a 10% tariff on Chinese imports as of February 1st.
We have repeatedly expressed China's stance on this issue. We have always believed that there are no winners in a trade war or a tariff war. China remains firmly committed to safeguarding national interests.
The Nicaraguan Ministry of Health confirmed in a statement the death on Tuesday night of the former president of El Salvador, Carlos Mauricio Funes Cartagena, as a result of his serious chronic illness. Mauricio Funes became president of El Salvador on the hand of the Faramundo Martí National Liberation Front with 51.32% of the valid votes and governed along with his vice president Salvador Sánchez Serén from 2009 to 2014. Funes was living in Nicaragua since 2016 after being persecuted by Salvadoran authorities who accused him of embezzlement, illicit enrichment, and bribery. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, led the military march together with the High Command at the opening of the first popular military and police exercise named Bolivarian Shield 2025. The Venezuelan president informed that this Wednesday, the Integral Defense Board became active in all the states, municipalities, parishes and communes of the country. The head of state declared that Venezuela has had ample success in combating and defeating criminal groups, besides offering other nations the experience that the national security entities acquired during their operations. In this sense, Maduro announced that the drills would be carried out through Wednesday and Thursday on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the 2015 Bolivarian Shield exercises.
We are activating at this hour the national...
Also, in this context, the Venezuelan president ratified that former Colombian presidents Álvaro Uribe and Iván Duque are public enemies of the national armed forces and of the people of Venezuela.
Venezuela has had ample success in combating, defeating and dismembering at the root the criminal groups that generate violence as a priority. And today we can say that, with some exceptions in some places, these groups have been totally defeated and crushed. If any country wants the experience of Venezuela, I extend my hand. For the fight against these violence-generating groups that have sustained, from Colombia, the paramilitarism, drug trafficking, the #1 public enemy of Venezuela, Mr. Uribe and Mr. Duque, legally declared by the National Assembly as public #1 enemies of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, of the people of Venezuela and of the popular military police fusion.
Displaced Colombians fleeing the armed conflict in the Catatumbo region were transferred from Casigua El Cubo to Santa Barbara de Zulia. According to Venezuelan authorities, the displaced have been attended to in terms of security and health. The military deployment has been key to guaranteeing access to shelters set up in an organized manner. The armed confrontations in the border region have forced hundreds of people to abandon their homes. In view of this fact, the Venezuelan government, in solidarity with the Colombian people, set up checkpoints under the supervision of the Bolivarian National Guard for the immediate attention of the Colombian families affected during this situation. More than 100 people have been killed in Colombia as a result of the armed conflict between the National Liberation Army, ELN, and the 33rd Front, a dissident faction of the now disbanded FARC-EP. So far, about 80 people have been killed in the Catatumbo region, while the conflict between armed groups has spread to other regions such as Guaviare, where over 20 deaths have been recorded. For its part, the Colombian government deployed thousands of military troops in the conflict zones to stop the violence and safeguard lives. This measure was intensified after the president declared a national state of internal commotion and economic emergency. However, despite the state's initiative, over 20,000 Colombians fled their homes looking for refuge, of which some 1,000 have found shelter in Venezuela. In Indonesia, at least 25 people were killed and 17 others were injured in several landslides in Bali and Java. According to the National Search and Rescue Agency, the landslides occurred at 3 different locations on the island of Java, home to more than 150 million people, and left 16 people dead, 10 seriously injured and 11 missing. Meanwhile, on the tourist island of Bali, the disasters hit 2 locations, leaving 9 dead and 7 injured, while preliminary reports still do not give details on the missing.
There were other smaller landslides that blocked the roads leading to the affected areas, but we already have rescue teams searching around the village chief's house and the cafeteria. Finally, we will also send a team to search along the river because the victims could have been swept into the river.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Palestine, Israeli occupation forces continue with their largest-scale operation in the West Bank, one day after having killed 10 people and injuring over 40. For the second consecutive day, Zionist troops have mounted Wednesday an offensive against Jenin and its refugee camp. Wafa news agency reported that on early morning, bulldozers began to demolish the streets and the entrance of the government hospital in Jenin, which was surrounded by the military. Furthermore, as part of the siege, the occupying army arrested 18 citizens in the West Bank. According to the governor of Jenin, Kamal Abu al-Rub, Israel took advantage of the truce in Gaza to transfer its forces to the occupied West Bank and harass its population. The Israeli occupation forces have continued their siege on the Palestinians in the West Bank, increasing their presence on the roads in addition to blocking the entrance of several localities. The Tel Aviv regime closed roads and blocked access to several villages in Hebron on Wednesday, preventing the free movement of Palestinian citizens. The Zionist forces also installed an iron gate at the entrance of the village of Deir Ammar, west of Ramallah, in addition to the 18 iron gates and more than 898 checkpoints set up by the colonial army as part of its policy of collective punishment that hinders the daily life of the Palestinian population. Meanwhile, local authorities reported the illegal detention by Israeli forces of around 30 Palestinian construction workers in the area of Kirbet ed-Deir, southwest of Bethlehem. They also detailed that the detainees were subjected to harsh interrogations on the spot as part of the Israeli occupation's ongoing aggressions against civilians and their property in several areas of the West Bank. Displaced Gazan citizens are returning home after over 15 months of aggressions, encountering an apocalyptic and devastating landscape in the coastal enclave. Many Gazan families are coming back to their homeland, in which 92% of all houses have been severely damaged by the constant Israeli incursions. Palestinian residents are now worried about the fact that they cannot recover what they lost. Some international organizations ensure that Israel has embarked on a scorched earth campaign with the objective of wiping out the possibility of life in the Gaza Strip. In Israel, 4 citizens were wounded in a stabbing attack by a young man in Tel Aviv on Tuesday. According to Israeli media, 2 men aged 24 and 28 were moderately injured, while the other 2, aged 24 and 59, suffered minor injuries. The assailant was shot on the spot and died at the scene. The Zionist authorities managed to identify him as a 29-year-old Moroccan with U.S. citizenship who arrived in the occupied territories a few days ago. The attack was reportedly in retaliation for the genocidal aggressions of the occupation army in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. The European Union admitted that sanctions against Russia impact energy prices across the region. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, acknowledged that energy prices across the European Union skyrocketed due to the interruption of ship supplies from Russia. Furthermore, the leader noted that the loss of Russian supplies made worse the European Union energy crisis. The authority granted that households and businesses are suffering power outages. However, bills are not going down. Von der Leyen said that before 2022, the European Union received 45% of the gas and 50% of the coal from Russia, and Moscow was one of the largest suppliers of oil to the European Union. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, dozens of people were displaced from their homes as part of the ongoing conflict between the Congolese army and the M23 insurgent group. The provincial governor of South Kivu, Jean-Jacques Purusi, confirmed that M23 rebels took control of the key town of Minova, an important commercial center. Purusi also added that the mining towns of Lumbishi, Numbi and Chanje were captured, as well as the town of Weremana. The M23 or March 23 movement is one of approximately 100 armed groups that have been vying for years for control of the mineral-rich eastern region of the country, a conflict that has displaced more than 7 million people since 1998 and over 237,000 since the beginning of the year, according to the United Nations Refugee Agency. The President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, leads the commemorative act for the Day of the Plurinational State in the Murillo Square in the capital of La Paz. The official ceremony began Wednesday with an indigenous ritual of gratitude to the Pachamama or Mother Earth. The spiritual indigenous leaders placed their offerings on an altar made of firewood, which they later set on fire amidst prayers in the Aymara language. In 2010, the then government of Evo Morales declared January 22nd as a holiday for the Day of the Plurinational State. Likewise, 4 years earlier, Morales swore in as president for his first term on the same date, January 22nd. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can join us and find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.